Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be moving on with this week. We had a double video yesterday. We're going to be looking at second place in the poll for today, which is going to put us at a band called Rings of Saturn, which it's a pretty cool name. It sounds familiar, though. I'm not sure if that's because it's been requested or maybe have we checked out Rings of Saturn? I don't remember. Anyways, let's get to this and see what these guys are bringing to the table. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, that super staccato rhythm on the bottom. Yeah, the harmonized melodies coming in and out. That's interesting. They would like harmonize four notes and then not harmonize the next four and then harmonize the next one. It's wild. Interesting. Very interesting choice. These little moments like this. We saw it at the beginning too, where he started with a really low volume and built into the riff. Yeah, lots of really cool contrast here. Oh, that bass. Feels like there's a lot of, maybe not a lot, there's a little bit of jazz influence in the guitar playing. That was weird. I don't know if it was a small tempo change, or if we came in a beat early, like we changed from 4/4 to 3/4 for a bar. It felt like we skipped a beat there. This idea. Ooh, very digital. Yeah, that one beat pause there. It's interesting. It's almost like a counter accent. Instead of accenting a note, the accent is silence. It sounds so much like how people thought the internet sounded in the 2000s. Late 90s to early 2000s. I really love love how they take these times to let these sections breathe. They hold out these notes and they really emphasize sort of the emotion of the section before going into their shred. So we move towards 6 here. Or I wonder if everybody was playing triplet so it felt like 6, but we were still in 4/4. Because that's, I would not have written it like that. Yeah, and I feel a foreshadow there in the drums into the ramp of intensity. Back to the 6. All right, interesting. Very interesting. Some cool things going on in there. A lot of it having to do with the ebb and flow of momentum, which I think is their biggest strength. They have this amazing sort of the way that they write their music and they compose how the sections are pieced together. They do a lot of moving in and out of complexity and simplicity, where we'll start with some longer held out lines, ba da 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 da, something along those lines, where we have these long, probably what is that, a dotted quarter into a few eighth notes, and you have these held out notes with against these pockets of runs, and then we'll move from that, and we'll see these little bits of foreshadowing. Maybe somebody will start soloing. They work around a lot of 4 and 8 bar patterns. So we're coming up on the 4th bar or the 8th bar of a loop, and maybe somebody will start shredding 2 beats early before you go into the next loop. Maybe the drum will have a bar full of double bass kicks or something to foreshadow the intensity coming up in the next loop. And then when we get into the next loop, we hear shredding. Usually we take those long drawn out notes and we embellish them. Instead of having a dotted quarter or a half note, those will be 4/8 notes or a bunch of 16th notes. And we'll go into more of a sweeping idea, moving around the note that was held previously. It's a nice little variation that takes the idea we already had and amplifies the intensity through rhythmic complication, driving momentum forward and seeing this evolution of the idea. I think it's phenomenal. I love how they do that. But that's more of the micro set. We also see this variation, this ebb and flow of their momentum on a macro set when we look at their sections themselves. We start out the song with this very quiet section, and it ramps up in volume intensity, and it ramps into the rhythmic intensity, the speed of the next section over time. And then after we've reached the peak where the drums are going crazy, the guitars are shredding, we've got these wild melody lines, they bring it back down. And we return to a section that is, quiet, subdued, less chaotic. And they have this nice flow this nice flow of contrasting these fast moving technical chaotic sections with these really pensive long drawn out emotive aspects. And it's this constant back and forth between legato and staccato, holding out your notes and then having a bunch of attacks and contrasting those two ideas. Um, and like I said, the whole song's kind of written like that. It's always moving back and forth between should we be shredding or should we be holding out some notes? And there is a nice bit of overlay when we see some of the foreshadowing, and they might put a fast run underneath these held out notes. But for the most part, they're separated, and I kind of would have liked to see some crossover, some more crossover there. But just as a whole, I really enjoy how they can kind of keep things interesting. They keep shaking things up by changing how the sections of these songs sound. On a fundamental level of rhythmic ideas, how they feel, how they sound, what kind of momentum they're driving, what emotion they're working within. Um, the other thing I thought was interesting that kind of confused me at first is their time signature. The entire song is 4/4, and then we got 2 bars of 6/8 in the middle, and I was like, no, where did that come from? Why didn't we stick around in there? My first thought, and I think I said it, was that it was probably triplets written in 4/4 that made it feel like a 6/8 or a 3/4 feel there. And because I can't see changing the time signature to 6/8 for 2 bars and then to revert it back in the sheet music. I don't know if they wrote this music down on sheet music or if they just played it and memorized it or used tablature or something. But actually, tabs would have used time signatures too. But I probably would not. I would have found a way to write that in 4/4. It would have looked weird, but changing time signatures for just 2 bars is weird. But then they came in at the end and they ended the song in 6/8 with a full 20-ish bars in that ending in the 6/8, and that's when it dawned on me, dang, they just set up that they set that up, they put some foreshadowing in there. Hey, like a an auditory Chekhov's gun. That's a for those who don't know, that's a film terminology that basically says if you're going to showcase something, it's probably going to show up later on in the film. Um, and I don't remember what film it was from, but there was a gun on the wall or something like that, and it was Chekhov's gun. Chekhov was one of the characters, and it wasn't used until the finale of the movie, but it was introduced. Somebody had pointed to it and said, "Hey, what's that?" And, they explained it, and that's where the terminology comes from. But basically, it says that if you showcase something, there's a good chance that it's going to end up being integral to the finale of the piece or one of the storylines. Um, and that's kind of what happens here. They showcased the 6/8, and at first I thought it was, a little bit of a flub. Why'd they throw that in there? Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just written in triplets, still 4/4. But no, no. By the end of the song, we ended the song in 6/8. It was a foreshadowing. It was an introduction of these ideas. That hey, this is gonna happen, just so you know. But I didn't know at the time. So yeah, that's interesting. We don't see that too often. Normally, we see short-term foreshadowing, like we mentioned at the beginning of this piece, where they might have a drum fill that transitions us from some of the more legato writing into the quick staccato, technical playing, and they'll introduce the drum section of the next. They'll introduce a bar of the drum part that comes next in the prior section, and they'll foreshadow it that way while also providing a nice little transition. But this was the long game. This was a long game. They foreshadowed something that wouldn't come up for another minute and a half. So, yeah, big props there. That is risky. Um, I don't, it's all about first time listens because you can't replicate that first time listen. I know anytime I listen to this again, that 6/8 is there because it's going to come up later on in the song. But the novelty of having it there for 2 bars and me being confused about it. I love that. It's novel. It's that rug being pulled out from under me while I'm listening. It's a hint to the future, but because it's so far in the future, I can't make that connection until it happens. And I'm just sitting there wondering, hey, why was that there? What did that serve? And I love that sort of uh, novelty, I guess. I'm sure novelty is not something a lot of people tend to say is a positive thing in music, but I will 100%. I love novelty in music. First time listens, I think, are very important. And catching my attention and catching me off guard is something I look forward to in a first time listen. Really surprising me. I like that. Um, on the flip side, though, I'm really trying to think about instrumental rock and metal and where it all sits. Um, because yesterday we checked out 2 songs that I had very different reactions to. Dream Theater, I was very enthusiastic about. I thought it was really well done. Uh, I made a criticism about the bass not being utilized properly, but as far as the thematic elements of the song and the writing itself and the song composition, I thought it was all done really well. And then we checked out Intervals, and I did not have as much positive to say about it. And here I am again. I'm really enjoying the technical aspect, the musicianship of this song. I'm enjoying a lot of the contrasting elements, some of the foreshadowing, the transitions, a lot of the minute detail, but the song is bouncing off of me again. And this is another song that on paper looks right up my alley. Phenomenal instrumental, great atmosphere. And I just mentioned that there's a really strong technical aspect to it. There's great contrast, and there's a lot of useful tools being utilized, like foreshadowing. And their transitions are very clean too. But it's just not anything I would want to return to. It's missing some sort of oomph. And I don't I don't know what that is. Um, I'm hoping that by the end of this week I can figure it out. Um, we have a classical piece being played this week, and what else? I actually don't know what the last 2 are. Not by those names, anyways. Um, but I'm hoping that we do get to check out some more rock and metal instrumentals because I really want to know what it is about these instrumental songs, especially. I thought it really only pertained to the math rock elements, because every math rock song, like I made this connection yesterday, I've had the same reaction to. But now Rings of Saturn is getting thrown in there, and it makes me wonder just how many instrumental rock and metal songs are going to bounce off of me this week. And I'm curious if I can find a trend here. I really want to know why these songs aren't working for me when I really should be enjoying them. So I know that's not really a lot for me to say about Rings of Saturn. I feel like this analysis is a bit sparse, but I talked about what I found positive about it and how that works at elevating the song, but I don't know what I'm not enjoying about it. There's just this compositional oomph that's missing here. And see, with the math rock stuff, I blamed it on a melody line. When we talked about Polyphia and Chan and Covet, it was missing a really strong melody. It has strong hooks, melodic hooks, but it doesn't have a melody line. It has really strong riffs. But Rings of Saturn and even Intervals, to a lesser extent, but still, had these really nice melody lines that play above the really catchy stuff and or the sound floor. The things in Rings of Saturn I would put in melody line area. They're not just riffs, they're not just chord progressions. There's some really nice melody lines in there. And I love the way that the melody lines flow. I think they have a really strong flow to them, and you can't feel any sort of rigid bar counting on them, like I've pointed out in some solos in the past, where you can feel like they had this 4-bar idea and then they had this 4-bar idea, and you can feel when the two ideas have shifted. Like this was the sweep picking part, this is the 16th note tremolo picking part, and you can just feel how they're segmented. But here, there's just really great flow. I think they're very emotive and expressive, but something's still missing, and I don't know what it is. So I guess that's the end of this analysis. Like I said, I feel it's a bit sparse, but I don't know what else to say for it. I'm hoping I can get some more insight, some personal introspection into why I feel this way about these songs by the end of the week. I know that that's a tall order. I got 3 days to figure out why I do or don't like certain songs. But also, I'll be having discussions with you guys in the comment section. I'll be chatting about it in Discord probably, and hopefully I can figure out what that component is that for me is missing. All right, well, those are my thoughts on Rings of Saturn, the Macrocosm. This where you guys come in, they'll hit me up in the comments, let me know if you enjoyed it or not, anything that bounced off of you or stood out and maybe I just didn't pick up on. And just like yesterday, if you really enjoy this track, please let me know what it is about it that really draws you, that pulls you in. I am very open-minded about other people's experiences with music, and I do want to at least find the angle of where people approach this to find, a very full enjoyment out of it. Even if I don't end up taking that same perspective, at least I can have that extra viewpoint that I don't have right now. When you're done commenting, you can head up to the description box. There's a link for Linktree in there. Everything adjacent to the channel is in that link for Linktree. You can find the Discord, you can find Patreon, you can find special selections, you can find Twitter. Everything's in there in a really nice menu. Until next time, no, I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC with another episode. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.